This morning I'm on my way out for what may be a rescue or recovery mission for one of my hives. This week we had record rainfall in our area. Today is Thursday, and on Monday we had record-breaking rain for a single day in November. And then on Tuesday we broke the record for the single day rain in November. That's obviously caused some flash flooding and water issues around our area. As for my house, we didn't have a whole lot of damage, except I did have to suck a bunch of water out of the carpet in the basement, and I'll tell you, after that experience, I'm really thinking about getting a shop vac. As for the hives at my house, they're doing okay. But I got a text from my contact at one of the properties that's hosting some of my hives, and I learned that of 4 hives on the property, one of them was moved about 10 yards by floodwater. Besides knowing that the hive was moved, I have no idea about its orientation. Is it tipped over, face down, face up, standing up? I don't know. I can say that the hive was strapped down to cinder blocks, so it must have gotten hit by a pretty good rush of water to move it. And as of right now, I'm expecting the worst, and we'll just see what we find when we get there. Well, I've arrived at the host property for the hives, and you're not going to believe this. I'm out here in the open field where these 4 hives are located, and there's a tree line that some of the hives are along. Let me show you this. So here's the tree line, really kind of a brush line, I guess, and there's one hive, and there's another hive, and there's a third hive, and the 4th hive is supposed to be right over there. But I got here and found it's right out here in the field, sitting upright. Now, I haven't been close yet to check on it, haven't opened it up to check on the bees or anything. Let's come over here and see what's going on. It's sitting on the cinder blocks. Somehow it made it over here upright. The entrance looks a little dirty. I don't know if that's, there's a little mud splatter up above, so it'd be interesting to have had a camera out here to see the trip that this hive made. But there's a little activity at the entrance. I guess we'll open it up and see what it looks like inside. But I am just in disbelief that this hive is sitting out here upright in the middle of the field and made the trip from over there. The rest of these hives are not entirely unscathed. You can see this one was kind of pushed off of the cinder blocks there a little bit. Not completely off, but just about. It's still strapped on there. Yeah, it's still strapped to that block, so that's probably what kept it from going all the way over. And got some bees hanging out on the entrance. I'll probably open this hive and just kind of make sure the frames aren't kind of moved around in there, but that one seems in reasonable shape. Next one over, got some bees at the entrance, and it does not look like it's moved at all. Those cinder blocks don't look like they've shifted at all. Even though it appears the water got up here, I can kind of see this grass is kind of leaning over, and there's some piles of sticks here that were probably left by the water, but I'm guessing the biggest rush was farther down. This last hive, well, they were not a really strong hive to begin with, and I'm not seeing bees at the entrance, so it's a little cool this morning, so it's possible they're just not getting active. But see, my strap here is kind of pulled out. I'm guessing water kind of pulled that out. But otherwise, it is sitting where I left it. Don't know why I didn't have that strap tied up. But I want to come back down here and show you where this 4th hive was originally sitting. So here's the cinder blocks. Tell by this grass leaning over, the water kind of came through. And the situation here is there is a creek that runs, you can't even see it from here, but it runs along beyond those trees. And they had done some levee work out here that apparently had helped with past flooding issues. When I moved the hives out here, they said that they hadn't had floods out here for quite a while, but this event this week was pretty historic. So not a surprise. Somehow we got from here over there and stayed upright. My hope is that those cinder blocks acted as ballast and the hive just kind of floated over there till it hit higher ground, but we'll see what it looks like inside. Seeing this hive upright out here was good news, and the fact that there's a little bit of activity at the entrance gives a little hope, but I still have a lot of concerns. As this was floating across over here, there's no telling how high the water got on there or inside. The hive is actually kind of tilted a little bit to my right here and to the back. So with the colony on this left end, if there's any water left inside of that hive, it should be pooled up on the back side on the end away from the hive, or away from the colony. So that could be good news. Still, I'm not seeing a lot of promising activity here, and I did see some dead bees just inside the entrance. Let's see if I can get this without my shadow there, but yeah, I don't know if that'll show up very well, but see some bees crawling in there, but there's a few dead bees just inside of the entrance there. So that can be an indication that, you know, the colony was affected to the degree that they're not able to really clean up after the aftermath. We won't know for sure till we open it up. It's a little cool today, so that could be a factor in the amount of activity we see here. Let's see what we can find. Mud splatters. I noticed on the front there's splatter drops all over the top of this. On this end there's mud on the strap, some dirt on the end. So we'll see what we've got. Well, the frames are all in place. There is water inside of here. That's not good. But those bees are clustering on top of those frames. That's interesting. And there's water. This is my insulated lid. And there's water draining out of the corner here. So it appears that this whole thing was probably underwater at some point during that ordeal. So this is a soupy mess in here. Obviously dead bees on the bottom there. About an inch, well, no, not quite an inch, but pooling water in this back corner. And there's my beetle traps in there. Those dead bees in there. We'll check on these frames. Now the frames are somehow miraculously all in place. We got these bees that are clustering on top here. I don't know why they didn't go back in, except that it's probably wet down at the bottom. Maybe they don't like that, but we'll pull these frames and see what it looks like in there. My plan at this point, we've got 7 frames for this colony. I brought along a 7-frame swarm trap. So my plan at this point is to, if we have a viable colony still, I'll pull the frames out of here, put them in the swarm trap, and then I'll take this hive box, dump out the water, move it back over where it belongs, and then we'll move the bees back in. Under normal circumstances, if I'm moving bees like this, because our distance here is only, we're probably about 40 feet away, we could end up with forager bees that are lost here, but it's cool enough, nobody's foraging right now, and they've only been here a day or two, so it's possible that the foragers here may not have reoriented to this spot. So my plan right now is just to try to move them back over to where they belong. We'll see. I may change plans as we go along. And there's water on that comb there, so it's obvious this got tumbled around. There's even some grass on that comb. So this went through a pretty rough time, it looks like. If we have enough of a population to get through winter, and their stores aren't all messed up here, and we have a viable queen, we may be all right. I don't know. As I move these into a swarm trap, I may not do a lot of inspecting, but we've got a pretty good quantity of bees on this divider board. I think I'll get my swarm trap and we'll go ahead and start moving some bees over. Yep. Got a wet frame there. No good. I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now, especially since it's this cool, searching through here for my queen or anything. We're just going to try to get these bees back where they belong, and hopefully they'll get through winter okay. And then we'll come back in the spring and see where we are from there. These frames are all soaked, and that may give an indication of where we're at in the other hives too. Not a lot of bees on these frames, and a lot of dead bees at the bottom of this hive. So this doesn't really look very good. Well, these are all underwater. Cells full of water there. Now this last frame, it's a pretty full honey frame. It doesn't look too bad, so we still got some resources there, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough for the colony. As I put these frames back, well, honey on this side is obviously wet, but this other side's pretty empty. As I move these frames into the hive, move these back in, I guess I'll go through and maybe consolidate some, because our population is largely dead here. I don't mean to laugh at that, but you know, laugh to keep from crying, I guess. And by the way, you may be noticing something different here is that I'm wearing these orange gloves as I work the hive. The reason I have these orange gloves is because I've been getting really bad eczema on my hands, and I finally figured out that I have apparently a contact allergy to propolis. So as I'd work the hives barehanded and get propolis on my hands like I got on my glove right there, I would get really bad, dry, cracked skin in those spots. So I'm going to start wearing these orange gloves to help protect against that. I'll go ahead and take this swarm trap box over to where the hive was and set it in that location. Here's a look inside at the aftermath. This is a few live bees here on the edge, but a bunch of dead bees down through the bottom there, and then the pool of water. So we'll get that all dumped out and move this hive box back over to its original location. Do my best to clear out some of these dead bees. So now with the box sort of cleaned out, I'll haul it back over to where it belongs, relocate it. I actually saw that there were some bees in my swarm trap. You can see there over my shoulder, actually already doing orientation flights over there. So maybe that's a good sign. So we'll get the frames put back in. And I said earlier that I wasn't going to do a lot of in-depth inspection, but it looks like the colony population has suffered enough that we really ought to condense the size of this hive for those bees for over winter. So I'll probably do that, and we'll see how things go. I got the hive relocated back to its original location. Now we'll get the bees back inside. I'm going to take these frames as I'm moving them. I'll kind of turn them sideways and shake them out. Try to shake out some of the excess water out of there. I'm guessing that can't be good for that bee bread and everything else that's in there. That's a sad case. So we got a pretty good honey frame there, or I say pretty good honey frame, we got a pretty good band of honey at the top of that one, but again, with all that water. Now the sealed honey should be all right, but any uncapped nectar may ferment, and the bee bread may be a loss. I'm really not sure. So that doesn't bode real well going into spring, but I see bees bringing in pollen fairly early in the spring, so hopefully if they lose the bee bread they have here, that won't be too much of a setback. Now this frame has more honey to it than that last one. Shake out some water. So we may kind of cull our frames accordingly here. Like I mentioned earlier, with their population set back, they're not going to need as many frames as they had. So I'm going to pull out some excess frames. They had 7. I've overwintered colonies on 5 successfully, done that several times, so I'm not hesitant about putting these on 5 if that's what they can cover better. So we'll set, I'll set this one over here. We'll try to give them the best frames we can find here. This frame doesn't have as much, has fairly small bands of honey at the top, more empty cells down through there, which would be a good frame for overwintering under normal circumstances, but sorry if that sounded shaky. I'm over here shaking frames as I'm trying to talk, but leaves lots of space for that water to fill in, so we'll get some of that water out of there. We'll set this one over here because it's a little less honey than some of the others. 3 more frames here in our swarm trap, and our bees are mostly on these. Still not seeing a lot of bees though. That one doesn't have too bad of honey stores on it. With the number of bees that are on here, I'm not going to shake this one off in the grass. I just don't know that they have a population that's going to get them through winter. I'm not seeing the queen on there. But as I'm working in through this swarm trap, she may have moved to the back. And that brings us to our last frame. It's a partial frame, but got some honey stored up on it. Cluster of bees at the bottom of it there. And more bees on the back side. Now it's possible that queen has run to the back if she's on here. She could be in this cluster of bees at the bottom if she's in here. But I don't know. There's no brood in here at all. And that's not entirely unexpected for this time of year. But that also means they're not going to be making up for any losses. To be honest, this colony probably doesn't need all 5 of those frames, but I'll go ahead and leave those. And we'll shake these bees out. Nice looking propolis scraped off of there. I'll take these frames that we pulled out of there. We'll just put them up next to this divider board, let the bees use them for food. While the weather still remains pretty warm, they should kind of pull the honey from those. Take these other frames, extra frames, just put them back in the end. Store those there over winter. So I'll strap this hive back down to the cinder blocks, and then we'll go check out that other hive that got moved a little bit and see what things look like inside of there. This next hive did not get moved as extremely as the first one, but it did obviously get pushed by the water because the cinder blocks were kind of askew. Not quite unstacked, it hadn't fallen over, but because it had gotten moved, obviously affected by the water, and because there's a bunch of bees clustering on the front of the hive, I want to open it up and see what kind of situation we're looking at inside. And depending on what we find here, I may go on and take a look at the third hive there just to do a check and see that everything's looking okay in there. So let's open it up and see what we find. Upon initially opening this, there is some water inside of here, not nearly as much as in the other hive, but the bottom is wet, so at least water got up to the level of the entrances. And what may be a worse sign, I can see that this first frame of comb I have here looks like it may be wet. So yeah, there's some water in that comb. So obviously we had pretty good depth of water here. As I pull back the divider board, it does look like there's a pretty good amount of bees here, but that's how it looked in the other colony when I first opened it up. So pulling the frame, they still got some pretty good honey. Now this bottom, looks like these bottom cells may be full of water. I don't know, the top cells too, or that may be nectar. This other side, we got some honey stores here obviously, but it looks like this may be a water line here. Down below that, these cells kind of have this weird grayish coating. I don't know if that's a mold or what. Bees are usually pretty good about cleaning that stuff up though, so I'm not going to worry too much. Give a little shake here, get some of that water out. I will say, looking at the next frame, our population does look better in this colony. I may not need to go too far in here. If their population looks good, they got pretty decent honey stores. They got some water in the cells, but nothing to the degree of what I saw in that other hive. And these frames are looking much better than what I saw in the other hive. They've got, now this one doesn't have as much honey at the top as I would have liked to see, but so far they have pretty decent honey stores in general. And there's a little chunk out of this top corner, but they've built out the next frame to compensate for that. I don't know what's up with that. I don't remember for sure what that looked like last time I was in this hive. Definitely got a much better population than what that other colony had. Got a honey band at the top of the frame there. Do have, you know, you can almost kind of see about where the water line was in this hive, but above that it looks pretty decent. So it looks like they were affected. I'm not going to dissect this too much. We'll just close this back up. My concern before opening up this hive was that the number of bees clustering on the entrance could have been a sign that the hive was so affected by the flood that it was uninhabitable on the inside, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It was obviously affected, obviously had water in there, but there's a good population of bees. I'm not going to go through there searching for my queen right now. She's there or she's not, and at this time of the year there's not much I can do about that. So we'll just let them go through winter. If it wasn't for the flood, I would just look at this colony, say they've got honey stores, they've got a good population of bees, and say they're in pretty good shape. So I don't think they've been too terribly affected by the flood water, and we'll just come back in spring and see how they're doing. As for that other colony, their future looks a little more dismal. Their population is way down now. Obviously they went through some trauma as a colony, getting tumbled around in that flood. So again, not a whole lot I can do about that right now. We'll just kind of hope for the best. I did not see the queen in there, but hopefully she's still in there and viable. Hopefully they have enough population resources to get through winter. So we'll come back in spring and see where they stand. So this has been an interesting experience for me. It's a new experience for sure. The first time I had to deal with my hives being affected by flooding. So we got it taken care of, got the hive put back to where it belongs. Hopefully we won't see historic rains like that again in the near future. I'm curious about what adverse or unusual situations you've had to deal with your hives. Go ahead and post your story in the comments. I want to give a special call out and thank you to the people who have supported me through Patreon. I really appreciate the support and encouragement that you provide. If you'd be interested in supporting me as a Patreon member, go check out my Patreon page at this link. I'll also put the link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, you might also like this video that YouTube has selected especially for you. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time. Now that the weather's warmed up, the traffic at the entrance of this hive looks just fine. In fact, I've even seen a couple bees bringing in pollen. So from what I can see at this entrance, it looks like there's not a whole lot of concern to be had here.